Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do the DCEU updates. So let's start off with Wonder Woman's box office. Yesterday, Thursday, August the 10th, 2017, it ended up its Kume at $400,728,085. So, literally, at the end of yesterday, its all-time domestic trailed Frozen, as you can see in the 26th spot, by relatively $10,000, under $10,000. So already today it is past that. So it's taken the 26th spot and it's overtaken Frozen. It's expected that through this weekend it will gross in at least $402 million. Its Kume will be at the end of this weekend. Okay, it will be over $402 million. Now, having said that, for Wonder Woman, it's moving along nicely. I say by week, and I think the 12th weekend, this is the 11th weekend, probably by the 12th weekend, or just going into the 13th weekend, it will surpass Spider-Man to become the #1 superhero origin film. So I'm looking forward to that. In terms of DCEU news, we have Screen Rant, and Screen Rant says they say that Steppenwolf may have a new secret origin. Now we know from IMDb that Sierra Hines, he's the guy that's playing Steppenwolf, and literally the character he's playing is Steppenwolf. Nonetheless, these people at Screen Rant, let me see who the writer is. The writer's name is so small, it's Andrew Dice. I don't know where Andrew Dice gets, sometimes he overthinks a situation, I think. But in this article, he's saying that the character could be Darkseid's father, whose name is Yuga Khan. And he's citing that the headpiece of Steppenwolf looks more like Yuga Khan. He has this little branch down below here. And he's saying the headdress looks like Yuga Khan's headdress. Doesn't really. Nonetheless, he's supposing that Yuga Khan, who is part of the Old Gods, he probably is incorporated into Steppenwolf's history. And he's saying that the look of Steppenwolf and just the way how Steppenwolf carries about himself, as well as the power Steppenwolf have, are attributed to Yuga Khan. First of all, I want to discredit that. That's overthinking. I'm sorry, Andrew Dice, but I think you're overthinking this one. I'm sorry, buddy. First of all, if you look at Yuga Khan, there's all these photos and pictures and from the comics of Yuga Khan. Yuga Khan looks nothing like Steppenwolf, nor the Steppenwolf that is in the DCEU at this point in time. This is Yuga Khan. He has some huge horns, like if he's a ram. Even this close-up picture here of Yuga Khan, here he is in the story, and he has these huge horns again. Yes, he does have the skull down below here like Steppenwolf, but you look at Steppenwolf, he has a kilt, and Yuga Khan doesn't have that in any of the iterations of Yuga Khan. Let me see if I can get some more. Here's a Fury here. Here's more of Yuga Khan here. So, and the other thing about it is, if I'm not mistaken, Darkseid either overthrew Yuga Khan or killed him. I can't remember what. So Yuga Khan's at odds with Darkseid. Yes, Yuga Khan has certain powers and abilities, but like I said before, Yuga Khan looks nothing like Steppenwolf. Nothing like Steppenwolf. Like all the iterations of Yuga Khan don't look anything like Steppenwolf. If anything, he looks more like Ares. And Steppenwolf does not look like Ares. Here's Yuga Khan. He's a huge guy. Steppenwolf is also a huge guy. Darkseid is also a huge guy. So I'm not really sure what Screen Rant is really trying to say. But they attribute a lot of things, and they're saying that Steppenwolf is not behaving like Steppenwolf, and that Zack Snyder is not really following lore, which is not true at all. Not true at all. And I think, Andrew Dice, I think you need to probably quell your enthusiasm and your imagination, because you're going off the rocker right now, quite frankly. Now, the next set of news that was very interesting is listening to Scott Mendelson talk about Justice League as if they're super friends. And he's talking about Cyborg being Justice League's secret weapon. Of course, I've been focusing on Cyborg for a while, and I've been doing a lot of videos on Cyborg. And maybe these guys are getting whiff of what I'm doing or something. I don't know. Cyborg must be in the air or something. Cyborg season. But we know that the crux of the heart of the film is on Cyborg. And basically, and that's not any new news. This is not a discovery for me. I saw this a long time, since last year. They were talking about that. Nonetheless, they're saying that Ray Fisher's character, because he's doing reshoots and so on, they're trying to make him lighter. And he's portraying this picture that he's trying to give a background of Cyborg as well. He's portraying this picture that Cyborg's going to be this light, fluffy, booyah kind of character. And then we get Ben Affleck's interview with Entertainment Weekly, where Ben Affleck basically says that he thinks Justice League is an interesting product of two directors. And he goes on to say something that is kind of provocative and may disturb some people, but I am going to tell you that Warner Brothers bears in mind the base that supports them, the Zack Snyder fans that support them. So take this all with a pinch of salt. Okay, so when Ben Affleck was asked about Joss Whedon taking over where Zack Snyder left off, this is what he had to say. It's a little bit unorthodox, admits Ben Affleck. Zack had a family tragedy and had to step off, which was horrible. For the movie, the best person we could have found was Joss. Okay? We got really lucky that he stepped in. This is quote, so I hope they are quoting Ben Affleck correctly. Affleck, who helmed the Best Picture winning Argo, describes the resulting film. An interesting product of two directors, both with kind of unique visions. He says kind of unique visions, so listen to what listen to what he's really saying. Both with really strong takes. Not opposing, strong. Listen to what he's saying. I've never had that experience before making a movie. I have to say, I really love working with Zack, and I really love the stuff we've done with Joss. He's not done. He has more to say. He continues. I've never worked on a movie that didn't do reshoots. They were talking about reshoots and the rumors that reshoots were extensive and that's a problem. Argo, we did reshoots for a week and a half, 4 days on Gone Baby Gone. The studio hasn't said anything official about Affleck's future as Batman. And then he went on to say, concerning Justice League, this is a really nice time to work in DC. They're hitting their stride. They're getting it right. It's starting to feel like it's really working. So that's Ben Affleck's take on things. And when you add that to what, I forgot what his name is, the gentleman who plays Silent Stone, I keep on forgetting what he is. When you add that to him, I get the feeling that Whedon's doing an excellent job of putting in the elements that Zack wanted to get tweaked for the film. I do not believe for a second, I don't care what anyone says, I do not believe for a second that the rhetoric that Whedon is trying to make this film his own film, or they're going off on a tangent with this film, I don't believe for a moment Whedon's doing that. He's too smart, and Warner Bros. Is too smart to lose the Zack Snyder fan base, especially on a Zack Snyder film. And if they're doing that, that would be monumentally stupid on their part, because if they assume that the reason their films are doing well are separate from the Zack Snyder fan base that has been pushing the DCEU, they'll be in for a monumental surprise. Let's just put it that way. And you can't trick the people in the DCEU who've come to the DCEU for a specific reason. So I hope that everything that is happening here is along the lines of what I'm interpreting it to be. And then there's always provocative things, and these media, they try to stir up, all of these things that are going on. So I don't really trust the media too much. I mean, Entertainment Weekly, they report things as they do. Even Andrew Dice, the guy who I had confidence in, he's going off on a tangent with things now, which is just ridiculous. I mean, it's Steppenwolf. It is what it is. He looks like Steppenwolf. He behaves like Steppenwolf. So I'm not quite sure what you guys are talking about. He's not going according. Zack Snyder's not going according to the comics. That's dumb. It's idiotic. Zack Snyder bases most of his comic book characters on the New 52 characters. He does slight variations from them. Okay, because he's trying to bring it to a certain realism, and the animators have to be able to do things they can do with the characters. So the design is slightly different. So I'm not quite sure what exactly. And anytime you're doing a live performance, it's an adaptation. So you have a certain liberty to adjust things and do things slightly differently. But I just don't get why the media is trying to subvert these films. It's trying to subvert the DCEU. You can tell. And I'm kind of sad by it because there's a lot of anticipation about Justice League, and there's definitely, of course, Cyborg is the heart of it. I just talked to you about how you have to tread the needle very well with Cyborg. He's a tricky character, but I just don't understand how the media will go out of their way, certain media at least, to basically sort of interpolate that Whedon and Snyder are at odds with each other, and Whedon's doing things totally different than Snyder or something like that. Like, that's the take you hear with Ben Affleck, sort of. Like, it's provocative. It seems to imply that. I don't believe that's what's happening. I don't think so. They all have to be on the same page. And, this is a Zack Snyder film. And what I mean by this is, if this was some other director film, and Whedon jumped on it, or even if it was a film where Warner Bros. Fired this guy, and then this other guy, he has all rights to do whatever he needs to do, that would be a different circumstance than somebody did all the principal photography, all the principal work, and another guy just has to finish it off. And he does have the most important job, which is the editing part, post-production editing. But, so I am seriously hoping, and I believe I'm correct, that Whedon taking over for Snyder is a good thing, because Whedon is actually, yes, he's trying to spruce up the film, amp it up, and make it better. But I just hope that the last sneak peek we got was influenced by Whedon, it was influenced by Efferman, but it was basically a Zack Snyder film. And everybody's been saying this already. It's going to be a Zack Snyder film. It's just Whedon, and they're going to touch it up. That's what I get. So anything the media is saying, I just don't buy it until I actually go see the movie. I'm not going to buy into any of the other baloney. No matter what anybody says, I believe this is a Zack Snyder film that Whedon's touching up and using different other elements and trying to just basically streamline it, make sure it's focused in on what it should be focused in on. And that's what I think it is. Now, if I'm wrong about this, well, it's no loss on my part, because it just means I don't spend time on things I'm not interested in. So you don't get me to come see comic book movies just like that. Justice League got my interest mainly because, and there's a lot of buzz on Justice League. If you go on, you go Google Infinity War and see how much buzz is on that. Go Google Spider-Man Homecoming and see how much Google buzz there is on that. Just do it. Do it right now. You'll realize Wonder Woman gets a lot of buzz and has been getting a lot of buzz. Justice League has been getting a lot of buzz. And the whole point behind this is, I'm saying again, there's a lot of buzz on these movies. So, but there's a reason why these movies get so much buzz. It's because of the way how Zack Snyder has set up these movies. As much as people want to say all kinds of negative things about Zack Snyder, etc., Zack Snyder is the one that got me interested in comic book movies once again. I wasn't going to be interested either way. So if you go and you screw up Zack Snyder's movie, thinking you're going to get a broader base, your core base, which is the ones that came to the DCEU because they liked what it was offering, will leave you. And your whole thing would collapse. So I think Warner Brothers has been checking the numbers. I think they understand what's going on. I think they will also understand that most of the DCU grounded fans did not find Wonder Woman better than Batman v Superman, didn't find it better than Man of Steel. So if they go with the formula that Wonder Woman is using into a Zack Snyder film, Zack Snyder directed film at that, it's going to backfire. They need to understand that this is a Zack Snyder directed film. They did Zack in with Batman v Superman in the sense that they did not give Zack the cut he wanted to put out there. Didn't do him in on Man of Steel. So kudos to them on that one. Don't do him in on this movie. Enhance what he's done. Streamline what he's done. Make sure the important aspects of what he's saying are not cut from the movie. And you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded. It's that simple. And of course, I have to admit, since Zack is so controversial and sometimes people misunderstand him, it is very important that Joss Whedon gets it right in terms of crystallizing what Zack is saying. So I understand that it's a very tough job that Joss Whedon has. But to say that if Joss Whedon is reinventing the wheel and trying to do huge chunks of the movie, ooh, that's gonna be bad. It's gonna backfire, because let me tell you 2 reasons why it might backfire. I think, my opinion, there'll be a dual tone there'll be a dual tone throughout the movie. But I think we've been working with Zack enough to know what the tone would be and everything. So I think they keep it. I think, like I said before, I think it's just they're trying to get that line where Cyborg would be received by everybody, because Cyborg's like central to the movie anyway. So I think they're gonna do a good job. At the end of the day, I still have confidence in them, and they should be aware of their base, the people, the core people who support them, and give them those astronomical figures. If Wonder Woman breaks the $403 million mark and passes Spider-Man, no, it's because not just the casual people stopped disengaged from that movie a long time ago. It's the diehards who keep on coming back and watching that movie. I can guarantee if they push it over the edge, push it over 403 million and pass Spider-Man, it's them diehards doing that too. It's the ladies too, but it's the diehards doing it. Alright, I know some diehards watch Wonder Woman like 25 times. Yeah. So I'm just letting you know. Alright, I wasn't as enthusiastic about Wonder Woman as I was for Batman v Superman and Man of Steel. I'll be honest with you. Suicide Squad didn't do it for me either. I've only seen Wonder Woman now once in the cinemas. You'd be like, shame on you. I'm like, yeah, just telling you. But I've watched it a number of times at home, which is bad. So I may have to go to the cinema, see if it's still showing, and go and just see it one more time, just to equal Suicide Squad. But honestly, it's hard to get me to go out in a cinema and watch a movie a lot. I realize that now. I'm just not one of those guys who's just gonna go watch a movie because it emotionally drives me. It's got to do something more than that. I have to be able to find more things in it, you know. And I'm reaching my threshold with Wonder Woman already. So I mean, if Justice League can't do what Batman v Superman did, well, at least I know that Zack Snyder's crowning work was Batman v Superman. I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? On that note, you guys have a great one.